Hello, so I wanted to talk about the map function that you can see down there, but I realized that to explain it, I need to understand the lambda functions better, and it's something that was on my list too, so let's go for both of them at the same time. So what is the lambda function? It's something I came across solving a lot of issues, and that's apparently very useful and used by a lot of people. And if you've been on the coding YouTube, you've seen it already, but I didn't really grasp it that well, so I did those all examples. So basically, let's go into like a basic function. Okay, so we're gonna define a number that's 10 and define a function x that returns number plus 10. So if I do my function here, I just get 20, right? It's like basic Python programming, like the thing you've seen like just beginning. But this is useful if you have something that you're going to be using often, or if it's a complex function that's important to what's going to happen in your program. But there are ways to program things for like one-time functions, one-time calculations that you don't really need to keep track of, and in order to make things easier to read, to have a less cluttered script, you can use the lambda function. So it's gonna go like this. It's just a rewrite of this syntax. So you're gonna have your x, so the result, maybe I shouldn't have named it this way. I should have been like func, for example. Yeah. So here my func is equal to lambda of y. So this is the variable, okay? And to this variable you're going to add 10. And so if I'm calling this func lambda function, I also should be getting 20, okay? Why is this useful? Well, it's useful because you don't have to use this writing, okay? This could be witnessed in any kind of other function, of other method in Python. So for example, we saw in a previous episode how the filter function would work, and what you could do. And just as a reminder, the filter function works like so. You use a function and you pass it on an iterable, and every iterable of the iterable is going to go into your function, and you're going to filter your iterable depending on the result of the function on every variable in it. Okay, so we used it, for example, to sort every odd numbers in a list. But instead of creating the function and then calling it here, you can just do a lambda and do a modulo in here. Equals 0, for example. And so this is going to be the same thing. You're going to return true or false, and you don't have to code another function before. So instead of like having multiple lines of coding like a function, then your filter, etc., you just have the filter of your iterable, because what you care about is the result here, okay? So that's why lambda functions are so useful. Another detail that you might enjoy is that the lambda function can take, like any function, multiple arguments. So here my function x is going to be a lambda of a and b, and it's going to subtract b from a. So if I take two variables y and z equal to 10 and 8, and I call x of z and y, I'm going to return 2, because obviously it's working, and you could do that with as many arguments as you please. And so just to make this more concrete, we're going to go into the map method explanation, which is also pretty simple since we saw that filter thing before. So basically what the map does, let's say that you have this x object that is a tuple 1, 2, 3, 4, and you want to define a method, and let's call it chunk of I, which is going to return whether or not I modulo 2 is equal to 0. So what you're going to do with this Well, you could just map it. So what does that mean? You want to apply this function to every iterable of your tuple, right? So you want to check if they are pair or not. So if you do it here with map, what you're going to do is apply junk to every single value, 1, 2, 3, and 4. But instead of filtering it like we saw with the filtering method, you're going to get a map object that is an iterable of all the results. But like I said, this is going to be a map object, okay? It's map. So this is not a list or a tuple or anything like that. I still don't know what's the big difference between a map and a generator. I know generators are very useful for memory usage. I don't know if mapping is as efficient, but what's interesting with the mapping is that if you have multiple tuples, it can avoid issues because it's going to prioritize the small tuple and avoid errors. Aside from that, I don't really know the difference, so if anyone's got the answer, feel free to tell me down below. So how do I get the values from my map function? Well, I just do a call of a list. So I'm gonna do a list of my map, and boom, and we see that we have 1 is not pair, 2 is pair, 3 is not pair, and 4 is. So here it's working. We applied our junk function to every object in the tuple. Easy as that. Like I said, you could be calling this for multiple objects, especially here 2 tuples. So let's take this tuple x and this tuple y, which are basically the same thing, but the second one is reversed. And you could do a map, but instead of this time using a function that we define, we're going to define a lambda function inside, and we're saving that time. So given my 2 tuples, I want to apply my map function to it. And so this is going 2 steps ahead now, because let's make it simple. Here is our function, okay? We could use multiple iterables in our map function. So you have my map is going to be my function, and this function is going to take 2 arguments, so the first iterable of x and the first iterable of y, and then it's going to go to the second and the second and the third and the third, and so you can apply your function to both iterable objects going through the 0, 1, 2, and 3 arguments. Okay, and my lambda function is exactly going to do that. See, lambda of I and j, and we're going to add I and j. Okay, so technically, if we're seeing this well, we should have 5 all the time. And in order to see the result, I need to print a list of A. Just a reminder that I'm using Jupyter Notebook, so I don't need to actually print stuff for them to show off, but remember that you obviously have to. And here we are, 5s. So yeah, that's basically it for our lambda function and mapping method. I had other things to talk about, but I want to dig into them a little more, and this is already a little long. So you know what? We'll see each other next time. Cheers.